Welcome. Thank you for your interest in coming on board as an auxiliary volunteer in support of your Quinte Healthcare Community Hospital. Following key sections of this orientation, review codes will be provided. Because it's a mandatory training for all volunteers coming on board, you will need to print off the form called Completion of Online Orientation. On the form, you will see areas that you must fill in the review codes, sign the form, and submit it along with your other paperwork. In addition, we ask for you to print or have opened the PDF file called Making Volunteer Services Accessible. If you do not wish to proceed with the online orientation, you can opt to attend orientation in person. Please refer to the website for days, times, and how to RSVP. Now, let's get started. Most volunteer programs are operated by the auxiliaries at each hospital, and in fact, the auxiliaries operate more than 50 programs, services, businesses, and events to support patients, families, and staff, as well as raising thousands of dollars each year in support of the hospitals. Volunteers contribute over 100,000 hours each year in support of our 4 hospitals. This orientation is designed to help inform you about volunteering in a hospital environment. The screening process can seem involved, but it's important, as our primary obligation is patient safety, and that makes this process necessary. Once you complete the intake process, our hope is that your experiences as a hospital volunteer will make it well worth the effort. We consider volunteers to be valued hospital ambassadors. We encourage you to be a positive and always helpful presence during your time in the hospital. For example, if you see someone who's lost, stop and ask if you can be of assistance in helping them find their way. In many cases, individuals coming into the hospital are upset, sick, or worried, and aren't necessarily able to think clearly to read our signs. Nothing is better than having a person offer to help in those moments. You may even choose to escort them where they need to go. Our values at QHC are as follows. Imagine it's you. Respect everyone. Take ownership. We all help provide care and always strive to improve. Our approach to communication is based on a tool called AIDIT, which stands for Acknowledge, Introduce, Duration, Explanation, and Thanks. The idea is to acknowledge the patient and/or family members, introduce ourselves, be honest and forthcoming about the duration of the individual's wait, provide explanations as best we can, and always say thank you. While not all of this is as relevant to volunteers as it is to clinicians providing frontline care, we are all part of the team that provides care. The reality is that the patient's experience starts from the moment that they pull into the parking lot, and we can all contribute in a positive way. Please take note of the first review code for filling out the completion of online orientation form. Code number 1 is QHC Values. Again, code number 1 is QHC Values. In healthcare, confidentiality is a requirement of all staff, physicians, and volunteers. You will be asked to sign a confidentiality agreement with Quinte Healthcare before beginning as a volunteer. Hospitals are required under the law to protect the privacy of patients. And volunteers are a part of the team, and as such are required to agree to honor confidentiality to the utmost extent. That means if you see someone in the hospital you know, you cannot go home and say to your family, "Guess who I saw at the hospital today?" Another scenario you may encounter is what to do when you see someone you know, to be sure you're honoring their right to privacy in seeking care at the hospital. We recommend that you be friendly, of course, but avoid asking questions like, "What are you doing here?" If they divulge a health issue, you must keep it in confidence. What you see and hear while in the hospital is confidential. All volunteers, staff, and physicians should maintain an inclusive and respectful attitude toward everyone. We do ask that volunteers refrain from expressing an opinion about a patient's condition or treatment and direct any medical inquiries to the nurse in charge. Please note, you need to report any incident of abuse, injury, discrimination, or harassment immediately to staff and the head of your service area. Volunteers are an integral part of our system and as such are covered under the policies at Quinney Healthcare. Please take note of the second review code for filling out the completion of online orientation form. Code 2 is QHC Confidential. Code 2 is QHC Confidential. All individuals working or volunteering within an Ontario hospital has to provide proof of TB testing and immunizations. We ask that you take the occupational health form provided in your volunteer package to your family physician or the health unit to have a TB test done and to provide proof of up-to-date immunizations. When making the appointment, you should tell them that you have applied to volunteer at the hospital and require TB testing and proof of immunization. The only medical documentation we require is the enclosed form signed by your doctor or health unit. Return the complete document along with your incident-free police background check to the volunteer office. An incident-free police background check is required by all volunteer applicants 18 years and over. The police background check can normally be obtained for free at your local police detachment office. The auxiliary will provide you with a letter saying you have applied to volunteer and require a police check including vulnerable sector screening. Again, patient safety is our #1 priority. Another hospital policy is around staff and volunteers staying away when ill, as not to infect patients and colleagues. Please don't come to the hospital if you are unwell or experiencing a contagious condition. The rule of thumb is to wait 24 to 48 hours from the time of your last symptom before returning. This will ensure you don't pass along your sickness within the hospital. Please remember not to enter isolation areas. Isolation rooms are marked with signs on the door. During an official outbreak of a contagious illness on a unit, volunteers may not be permitted on that specific unit. Please take note of the third review code for filling out the completion of online orientation form. Review code 3 is QHC Safety. Again, review code 3 is QHC Safety. In the hospital, diligent hand hygiene is essential. Hand washing is considered the most important single procedure for preventing the spread of germs. That's why you will see alcohol-based hand rub in numerous locations throughout the hospital. If your hands are visibly soiled, wash them well with soap and water when you arrive. Alcohol-based hand rub is the preferred method for cleaning hands when hands are not visibly soiled. Do it when you arrive. Do it after you sign in. Do it when you enter the unit if you've touched door handles or elevator buttons along the way, and between every single contact with a customer if you volunteer in a service area such as a coffee bar, or between every single patient or patient environment contact if you volunteer in a patient care area. For example, if you're delivering books and magazines to patients and you go into a room with 2 patients, if you start at patient A, perhaps you've touched the bed rail or nightstand as you chat with the patient. Well, you need to do your hands before you go to patient B to ensure you don't pass anything along that could make that individual very sick. In a hospital environment, the expectation for hand hygiene is extremely high and for very good reason. Please take note of the 4th review code for filling out the completion of online orientation form. Review code 4 is QHC hands. Again, review code 4 is QHC hands. Once you complete all the paperwork and are placed into the area you will be volunteering, please inquire regarding what to do during a code red situation, which is a report of smoke, fumes, or fire. Each department has a meeting area where they go to wait for further instruction. If you are alone in a room, such as a gift shop, please leave the area immediately and close the door. Don't stay alone in the room. Our emergency number within the hospital is 5999. If you can't recall that, you can always dial 0 and tell switchboard what's happening, and they will know who to call. Code blue is any medical emergency. If you witness someone in obvious need of immediate medical care, such as an information desk volunteer who sees someone collapse coming into the hospital, he or she can call 5999 and say code blue and clearly state the location and which hospital. The following are some important reminders for volunteers. Please wear your ID badge at all times. This is our staff's way of knowing you are cleared to volunteer. We will take your photo and provide you with the badge when you are cleared to volunteer. Another note, falls are the #1 injury within hospitals. We have a strict footwear policy of no sandals, flip-flops, Crocs, or other open-toe footwear. In addition, we have staff and patients with severe health issues that can be triggered by scents. We ask that you not wear perfume or other scented products when coming into the hospital to volunteer. Volunteers do not pay for parking while volunteering. If you are a volunteer at Belleville General or Trenton Memorial Hospitals, you will need to keep the ticket that is dispensed at the parking gate as you enter and have it validated by security after your shift. Security will need to see your ID badge. At Prince Edward County Memorial Hospital, the ID badge issued is used to open the gate when you exit. We now ask that you read the information regarding making volunteer services accessible that we asked you to print out at the beginning of the orientation. It contains simple tips and reminders for serving those with disabilities. Within the hospital system, we serve those with all abilities and disabilities, so it's important you review this information. Please take note of the 5th review code for filling out the completion of online orientation form. Review code 5 is QHC Thank You. Again, review code 5 is QHC Thank You. In closing, thank you so much again for your time and interest in volunteering. Volunteers are truly an integral part of our team.